Disappearance number 1. Amelia Earhart. July 2nd, 1937. Amelia Earhart and navigator Fred Noonan were attempting to circumnavigate the globe at the equator. They departed Lae, New Guinea, heading for Howland Island in the Pacific, 2,500 miles of open ocean. Earhart was the most famous aviator in the world, first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic, setting records, breaking barriers. This flight would be her greatest achievement. At 7:42 a.m., Earhart radioed the Coast Guard cutter Itasca near Howland Island. Her last transmission: "We are on the line 157-337, running on line north and south." She was close. Very close. The Itasca could hear her transmissions clearly, but she couldn't hear their responses. Radio communication was one way only. At 8:43 a.m., Earhart transmitted again, her voice urgent. "We are running north and south." That was the last anyone ever heard from her. She should have been within sight of Howland Island. She had enough fuel for several more hours, but she never arrived. The U.S. Navy launched the most extensive air and sea search in history at that time. They searched 250,000 square miles of ocean, battleships, aircraft carriers, 66 aircraft, 4,000 personnel, 17 days of searching. They found nothing. No wreckage, no oil slick, no debris, no life rafts, nothing. How does an aircraft simply vanish over open ocean with multiple ships searching the area almost immediately? The official conclusion was that Earhart ran out of fuel, crashed into the ocean, and sank. Plausible. Except the search area was enormous and covered all possible flight paths. If she crashed in that region, some evidence should have been found. Alternative theories emerged. Some believed she was on a spy mission and was captured by the Japanese. Others suggested she survived on a remote island. Human bones found on Nikumaroro Island in 1940 were initially dismissed, but later reanalyzed in 2018. The skeletal measurements matched Earhart's proportions. DNA testing was attempted, but the bones had been lost. But if she crashed on Nikumaroro, why was no trace of the aircraft found? The island has been searched multiple times with metal detectors and ground-penetrating radar. Nothing conclusive. Underwater searches have used sonar to scan the ocean floor around Howland Island. They've found several anomalies that might be aircraft wreckage, but nothing has been confirmed as Earhart's Lockheed Electra. In 2024, Deep Sea Vision discovered a sonar image of an aircraft-shaped object on the Pacific floor near Howland. Analysis is ongoing, but after 87 years, will we ever know what happened? Amelia Earhart vanished with her navigator over the Pacific Ocean. The most expensive search operation in history found nothing. No confirmed wreckage, no bodies, no definitive answers. She was there, and then she was gone. Moving to disappearance number 2. Disappearance number 2. D.B. Cooper. November 24th, 1971. Thanksgiving Eve. A man calling himself Dan Cooper bought a ticket for Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305 from Portland to Seattle. $30 ticket. No identification required in 1971. Cooper was described as mid-40s, wearing a business suit, black tie, and sunglasses. Unremarkable. Forgettable. Shortly after takeoff, Cooper handed a note to flight attendant Florence Schaffner. She initially ignored it, assuming it was a passenger trying to flirt. Cooper leaned over and said quietly, "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." The note claimed Cooper had a bomb in his briefcase. He showed Schaffner what appeared to be red cylinders, wires, and a battery. She informed the captain. Cooper's demands: $200,000 in $20 bills, 4 parachutes, and a fuel truck standing by in Seattle. If his demands weren't met, he'd blow up the plane. The airline and FBI complied. They assembled the money, obtained the parachutes, and directed the plane to Seattle. During the flight, Cooper was calm, polite, ordered a bourbon and soda, paid for it. Tipped the flight attendant. The plane landed in Seattle. Cooper released all 36 passengers in exchange for the money and parachutes. He kept the flight crew. He ordered the plane to take off again. Destination Mexico City, flying low and slow. At 8,000 feet, somewhere over southwestern Washington, Cooper opened the rear stairway of the Boeing 727. At approximately 8:13 p.m., he jumped into the night, wearing only a business suit, in freezing rain, into a wilderness forest. He was never seen again. The FBI launched an extensive manhunt. They searched the suspected drop zone near Lake Merwin and the Lewis River in Washington. Ground teams, helicopters, dogs. They found nothing. Cooper should have left some trace: a parachute, clothing, equipment, the money, something. The terrain was rugged, but not inaccessible. Loggers worked the area. Hikers explored it. Nothing was ever found except 9 years later, a small boy discovered $5,800 of the ransom money buried in sand on the Columbia River shore. Badly decomposed. How did it get there? Did Cooper drown in the river? If so, where's the body? Where's the rest of the money? Where's the parachute? The FBI investigated over 1,000 suspects. They interrogated Cooper's most likely candidate, Richard Floyd McCoy, who committed a nearly identical hijacking 5 months later. But McCoy was ruled out based on physical description discrepancies. In 1980, the FBI concluded Cooper probably didn't survive the jump. The conditions were terrible. He had no survival gear. He was wearing loafers, not boots. The temperature was 7 degrees below freezing. The terrain was dense forest. But if he died in the jump, where's the body? Where's the parachute? Where's the remaining $194,200? Some believe Cooper was an experienced skydiver who planned meticulously and survived. Others think he died on impact, and his remains were scattered or consumed by animals. The money found on the riverbank suggests he at least reached the Columbia River. In 2016, the FBI officially closed the case without solving it. D.B. Cooper vanished into the night sky over Washington and was never found. He jumped from a plane and disappeared. Moving to disappearance number 3 in part 2. Disappearance number 3. Frederick Valentich. October 21st, 1978. 20-year-old pilot Frederick Valentich took off from Moorabbin Airport in Melbourne, Australia. Routine training flight to King Island and back. Clear evening. Experienced pilot with 150 hours flight time. At 7:06 p.m., Valentich radioed Melbourne flight service. Is there any known traffic below 5,000 feet? Melbourne confirmed no known traffic in his vicinity. Valentich responded, there is an aircraft just passed over me at least 1,000 feet above. Melbourne asked him to confirm. Valentich described the aircraft. Large, traveling at high speed, 4 bright landing lights. But it wasn't on Melbourne's radar. Valentich reported the aircraft was approaching him. Then he said something strange. It's not an aircraft. For the next 6 minutes, Valentich described an object orbiting above him. Shiny metal exterior, elongated shape. Then he reported his engine was running roughly and coughing. His last transmission at 7:12 p.m. It is hovering and it's not an aircraft. Then metallic scraping sounds came through the radio. Then silence. Valentich never arrived at King Island. He never returned to Melbourne. An extensive air and sea search found nothing. No wreckage, no oil slick, no life raft. The aircraft, a Cessna 182, simply vanished. The Department of Transport investigation concluded, the reason for the disappearance of the aircraft has not been determined. Skeptics suggested Valentich became disoriented, flew upside down, and crashed into the ocean, while misidentifying the lights of his own aircraft reflected in the water. But Valentich was instrument-rated, and the scraping sounds on the radio are unexplained. UFO researchers believe Valentich encountered an unidentified craft. His detailed description matches other UFO sightings. His terror was evident in the voice recordings, and his aircraft vanished without trace. In 1983, an engine cowl flap was found washed ashore on Flinders Island. It was confirmed to be from a Cessna 182. But serial numbers didn't match Valentich's aircraft conclusively. Was it from his plane or a different Cessna? No other wreckage was ever found. Valentich's aircraft carried enough fuel for the round trip with reserves. Even if he crashed, something should have floated. Life jackets, seat cushions, debris, nothing. Frederick Valentich was flying over Bass Strait. He reported something unusual. Then he was gone. Was he abducted by the object he described? Did he crash for mundane reasons, and the UFO sighting was coincidental? Or did he stage his own disappearance using the UFO story as cover? We don't know. But his voice recordings are chilling, and his aircraft has never been found. Moving to disappearance number 4. Disappearance number 4. Jim Thompson. March 26, 1967. Easter Sunday. Jim Thompson, American businessman and former OSS officer, was vacationing in the Cameron Highlands of Malaysia. Thompson had revitalized the Thai silk industry after World War II and become one of Thailand's most prominent foreign residents. Thompson was staying at a friend's cottage. After lunch, he told his companions he was going for a walk in the jungle. He left around 3 p.m. He was wearing light clothing. He took no supplies. He never returned. His companions searched the immediate area. They contacted local authorities. By the next morning, a massive search operation was underway. The Malaysian government deployed military units, police, tracker dogs, local tribespeople who knew the jungle intimately, helicopters with infrared sensors. Over 300 people searched for weeks. They found nothing. No footprints, no torn clothing, no signs of a struggle, nothing. The Cameron Highlands jungle is dense but not vast. Thompson couldn't have gone far on foot. The search area was thoroughly covered. Every path, every clearing, every ravine. Nothing. Thompson was 61 years old, but fit and experienced in jungle environments from his OSS work during the war. He knew how to survive. He wouldn't have panicked. So where did he go? Theories multiplied. Some believed Thompson was killed by communist insurgents active in the area. But no body was found. No ransom demand was made. Communists usually left evidence to intimidate. Others suspected Thompson was assassinated by business rivals or political enemies. He'd made enemies in the silk trade, but again, no body, no evidence. Perfect assassinations don't result in searches by 300 people finding absolutely nothing. Some suggested Thompson was still working for American intelligence and disappeared voluntarily. He'd been with the OSS in Thailand during World War II. The CIA was active in Southeast Asia during the Vietnam War. Maybe he was extracted for a mission, but Thompson's family never received any contact. His businesses suffered. His estate went into disarray. If he'd planned to disappear, he'd have made arrangements. The most disturbing theory? Thompson encountered something in the jungle that we don't understand. Local tribespeople spoke of spirits and strange phenomena in the area. They weren't surprised Thompson vanished. They warned the jungle sometimes takes people. In 1974, a Thai soothsayer claimed Thompson's spirit told him the body was in the jungle near a waterfall. Searchers found skeletal remains in that area, but dental records proved it wasn't Thompson. To this day, no trace of Jim Thompson has been found. He walked into the Malaysian jungle on Easter Sunday 1967 and vanished completely. He was there, and then he wasn't. Moving to disappearance number 5 in part 3. Disappearance number 5. Brian Schaffer. April 1, 2006. 27-year-old medical student Brian Schaffer went out with friends in Columbus, Ohio. They visited several bars near Ohio State University. Final stop, the Ugly Tuna Saloona on the second floor of a building on High Street. Brian was captured on security cameras entering the bar at 1:15 a.m. The camera covered the only public entrance and exit. There was an emergency exit, but it was locked from the inside and alarmed. It led to a construction area. Brian was seen inside the bar throughout the night, talking with friends, drinking, normal night out. At 2 a.m., security footage shows Brian talking to 2 women near the bar entrance. Then he turns and walks back toward the bar. That's the last time he's ever seen. At closing time, his friends couldn't find him. They assumed he'd left already. But Brian never went home. He never returned to his apartment. He never showed up for work. He vanished. Police reviewed all security footage. Brian entered the bar. He never left on camera. The emergency exit was checked, locked, not used, no alarm triggered. The building was searched thoroughly, every room, every storage area, every possible hiding spot. Nothing. Columbus police investigated extensively. They interviewed everyone at the bar that night. They reviewed cell phone records. Brian's phone last pinged near the bar at 2 a.m. Then nothing. His bank accounts were never accessed. His credit cards were never used. His medical school friends never heard from him. His girlfriend, Alexis, whom he'd planned to propose to, never received contact. Brian's mother died of cancer just weeks before his disappearance. He was grieving, but seemed to be coping. Friends said he was looking forward to the future, planning to propose, excited about finishing medical school. No indication he wanted to leave his life behind. So how did Brian Schaffer leave the ugly tuna saloona without being captured on camera? Theories. He left through the construction area via the emergency exit, somehow without triggering the alarm. But construction workers said the exit was locked and functional. And where would he go from there? The construction area was contained. Others suggested Brian met with foul play inside the bar. But the bar was thoroughly searched. And a body can't just disappear from a building with limited access. Some believe Brian staged his disappearance. He was grieving his mother. Maybe he wanted to escape. But he left everything behind: his car, his belongings, his entire future. Medical students don't throw away years of education casually. In 2008, a private investigator claimed Brian's band of friends weren't fully cooperative. One friend, Clint Florence, refused to take a lie detector test. Does he know something? Or is he just protecting his privacy? Brian Schaffer walked into a bar on April 1, 2006. He never walked out. Security cameras prove he entered. They never show him leaving. Yet he vanished. He was there, on camera. And then he was gone. Moving to disappearance number 6. Disappearance number 6. Lars Mittank. July 8, 2014. 28-year-old Lars Mittank from Germany was vacationing in Bulgaria with friends. Last night of the trip, they went to a sports bar to watch the World Cup. Lars got into an argument with other soccer fans. A brief scuffle. Lars claimed he'd been hit in the ear. The injury seemed minor. His friends flew home the next day as scheduled. Lars stayed behind to see a doctor. The doctor diagnosed a perforated eardrum. Lars was prescribed antibiotics and told not to fly until the eardrum healed. He'd have to stay in Bulgaria a few more days. Lars checked into a budget hotel near Varna Airport. He called his mother that evening. He sounded frightened. He said someone was following him. He said it wasn't safe. His mother tried to calm him, suggesting the medication was making him paranoid. Security footage from the hotel shows Lars appearing agitated, pacing, looking over his shoulder. He hid his wallet and ID in the hotel room and left only with his phone and some cash. July 8th, Lars went to the airport. Security cameras captured him in the terminal. He looked nervous, anxious. He spoke with an airport doctor briefly. Then something happened. The security footage shows Lars suddenly bolting. He runs out of the airport at full speed. Through the terminal, out the door, across a field, climbing over a fence, running into the forest. He was never seen again. Massive searches of the area found nothing. No body, no belongings, no trace. Lars disappeared into the Bulgarian wilderness and vanished completely. What made him run? Why was he so terrified? His mother said he mentioned something about pills and being afraid someone drugged him. Was he experiencing a psychotic episode from the antibiotics? Or was someone actually following him? Witnesses at the airport said Lars looked genuinely frightened. He wasn't acting erratically until that moment when he suddenly ran. Something triggered his flight response. Theories range from mental breakdown to kidnapping to voluntary disappearance. But the footage shows a man running in absolute terror. That's not staged. That's real fear. Local authorities searched the forests, the terrain, the villages. Nothing. Lars Mittank ran from Varna Airport into the wilderness and completely disappeared. In 2021, Bulgarian police reopened the case. No new information emerged. Lars's family still searches. They've hired private investigators. They've followed every lead. Nothing. Lars was captured on security cameras running from the airport. Where did he go? Why was he so afraid? And how does someone vanish so completely in a relatively populated area? He was there, on camera, running, and then he was gone. Moving to disappearance number 7 in part 4. Disappearance number 7. Louis Leprince. September 16, 1890. Louis Leprince, French inventor and pioneer of motion pictures, boarded a train in Dijon, France, heading to Paris. He was carrying his groundbreaking motion picture camera and patents. Leprince had just successfully filmed moving pictures, years before Thomas Edison. He was scheduled to demonstrate his invention in the United States. He had patents. He had evidence. He was about to become famous. His brother waved goodbye at the Dijon station. Leprince settled into his compartment. The train departed at 2:42 p.m. When the train arrived in Paris, Leprince wasn't on it. His luggage was there. His camera equipment was there. But Leprince had vanished. The train was searched. Every compartment, the entire length, nothing, no body, no signs of struggle, no indication of where Leprince went. He couldn't have fallen from the train. The doors were secured. No windows were open wide enough for a person to fit through. He couldn't have gotten off at any station. The train didn't make stops where he could have disembarked. Yet Louis Leprince was gone. French police investigated. They questioned every passenger, every conductor, every station master along the route. No one saw anything unusual. No one remembered Leprince leaving the train. His family suspected foul play. Edison was developing competing motion picture technology. Edison had a reputation for ruthlessly eliminating competition. Did Edison's associates arrange Leprince's disappearance? Edison later claimed he invented motion pictures. He won the patents. He became known as the father of cinema. Meanwhile, Leprince, who had actually invented the technology years earlier, was forgotten. In 1899, Leprince was declared legally dead. His widow tried to challenge Edison's patents in court, arguing her husband had invented motion pictures first. But without Leprince to testify, she lost. In 2003, a photograph was discovered in a police archive. It showed a drowned man pulled from the Seine River in 1890, around the time of Leprince's disappearance. Some believe it's Leprince, but definitive identification is impossible. Did Edison have Leprince killed? Did Leprince commit suicide? Did he stage his disappearance for unknown reasons? Or did something else happen? The man who invented motion pictures disappeared from a moving train between two stations. His body was never found. His fate unknown. He boarded a train and vanished. Moving to disappearance number 8. Disappearance number 8. Owen Parfitt. June night, 1768. Owen Parfitt, an elderly man in his 70s, sat in his wheelchair outside his sister's farmhouse in Shepton Mallet, England. He was paralyzed from the waist down. Couldn't walk, couldn't move without assistance. His sister went inside briefly to get blankets. She was gone perhaps 5 minutes. When she returned, Owen was gone. The wheelchair sat empty. No signs of struggle, no footprints, no drag marks. Owen Parfitt had disappeared. How does a paralyzed man in a wheelchair vanish in 5 minutes from a farmhouse yard? The sister screamed for help. Neighbors came running. They searched immediately. The farmhouse, the fields, the nearby woods. Nothing. Owen couldn't have wheeled himself anywhere. He was paralyzed. He couldn't have walked. He couldn't have crawled far. Someone would have had to carry him. But who? And why? And how did they leave no tracks? The area was soft earth. Footprints should have been visible. Drag marks, wheel tracks, something. But there was nothing. Owen simply wasn't there anymore. Local authorities investigated. They questioned everyone in the vicinity. They searched for weeks. They found no trace of Owen Parfitt. No body. No evidence. No explanation. Theories at the time ranged from abduction to supernatural intervention. Some villagers believed Owen had been taken by spirits. The timing was too perfect. The lack of evidence too complete. Skeptics suggested Owen was taken by someone who carefully covered their tracks. But why? Owen was elderly and paralyzed. He had no wealth, no enemies, no reason for anyone to kidnap him. And covering tracks that thoroughly while carrying a paralyzed man would require significant planning and effort. For what purpose? Over 250 years later, Owen Parfitt's disappearance remains unexplained. He sat in his wheelchair outside his sister's farmhouse. She went inside for 5 minutes. He vanished. No body was ever found, no trace of what happened, no satisfactory explanation. A paralyzed man in a wheelchair disappeared in 5 minutes. Completely. Impossibly. He was there. And then he wasn't. Moving to the final 2 disappearances in Part 5. Disappearance number 9. Flannan Isles Lighthouse Keepers. December 15, 1900. The lighthouse supply ship Hesperus approached Island Moor in the Flannan Isles off the coast of Scotland. The lighthouse hadn't signaled for over a week. Captain James Harvey was concerned. When the ship docked, no one came to greet them. Harvey sent a landing party to investigate. What they found was deeply unsettling. The lighthouse was deserted. All 3 keepers, Thomas Marshall, James Ducat, and Donald MacArthur, were gone. The lighthouse was in perfect order. The beds were made. The dishes were washed. The clocks had stopped. The last entry in the log was December 13th, noting severe storms. But there were strange details. 2 of the 3 sets of oilskin outerwear were missing. The 3rd set remained hanging by the door. Why would 2 men go outside in a storm without the 3rd? Outside, they found evidence of massive storm damage. A box of supplies 70 feet above sea level had been torn loose. An enormous wave must have hit the lighthouse. But the lighthouse was designed to withstand such storms. And why were the keepers outside during the storm in the first place? And why did one stay inside while 2 went out? The investigation concluded the keepers had gone to secure equipment during the storm and been swept away by a massive wave. Plausible. Except the timing didn't match the weather reports. Ships in the area reported no unusual storms between December 13th and 15th. Other lighthouses reported calm conditions. Where was this storm that supposedly swept 3 experienced keepers away? And why was the lighthouse in perfect order? If the men rushed out in an emergency, wouldn't there be signs of haste? Dishes left out, beds unmade, doors open? Instead, everything was orderly, tidy, as if the keepers simply stood up, walked out, and vanished. Some suggested supernatural causes. The Flannan Isles had a reputation for strange occurrences. Local legends spoke of spirits and phantom birds. Sailors avoided the islands when possible. Witnesses on passing ships reported seeing ghostly figures near the lighthouse. Others claimed to hear voices calling from the rocks during calm weather. The official explanation, storm wave, but too many details don't fit. 3 experienced keepers don't all go outside during a storm that may not have existed. The Flannan Isles lighthouse keepers disappeared on December 13th or 14th, 1900. Their bodies were never found. The lighthouse remained automated and empty. Their fate remains a mystery. 3 men vanished from an isolated lighthouse, completely, without trace. They were there. And then they were gone. Moving to the final disappearance. Disappearance number 10. Benjamin Bathurst. November 25th, 1809. Benjamin Bathurst, British diplomat, was returning to England from Vienna. He'd been on a secret mission to Austria during the Napoleonic Wars. He was carrying sensitive diplomatic documents. Bathurst stopped in the town of Perlberg in Prussia to change horses. He had dinner at an inn. Witnesses saw him inspect the horses. He walked around to the front of the carriage. His secretary, who was with him, looked away for a moment. When he looked back, Bathurst was gone, vanished. In front of the inn, in a small town, in broad daylight. His secretary immediately searched. The innkeeper helped. Local authorities were notified within minutes. They searched the entire town. Every building, every alley, every possible location. Benjamin Bathurst had disappeared completely. Prussian authorities launched a full investigation. They questioned everyone. They searched the countryside. They drained ponds. They excavated suspicious areas. Nothing. Bathurst's wife traveled to Perleberg personally. She offered rewards. She hired investigators. She spent months searching. She found nothing. Theories abounded. Some believed Bathurst was assassinated by French agents. He was carrying sensitive documents. Napoleon's intelligence network was extensive. But if he was killed, where's the body? And how did assassins grab him in full view without anyone seeing? Others suggested Bathurst was kidnapped by Prussian authorities and secretly imprisoned. But Prussia and Britain were allies. Why would Prussia kidnap a British diplomat? And why was there no ransom or political demand? The most disturbing detail? Several months later, some of Bathurst's clothing was found in the area. Then, years later, skeletal remains were discovered nearby. But identification was impossible. Were these Bathurst's remains or someone else's? And if Bathurst died in Perleberg, how did he vanish in front of witnesses? Benjamin Bathurst walked around a carriage in a busy town. His secretary looked away for seconds. Bathurst was gone. A British diplomat disappeared in front of witnesses, in a small town, where everyone knew everyone, yet no one saw anything. He was there, and then he wasn't.